When you're trying to put an ostinato with a poem, you have to make each one sync with the other. It has to line up vertically, and I'll show you that in just a moment. Let's begin with the poem. This one is Douglas Florian's The Tortoise. You can see here this is exactly how he presents it in his book. It has a visual appeal to it. Visually, however, it's not what we're going to hear. 9 times out of 10, the way we see a poem is not the way we're going to hear the poem, if we're saying it in a rhythmic, metrical way. Here's the way that we're going to hear it. Notice that I've rewritten it so that the rhyming words are at the end of every line. The first thing you'll want to do, regardless of the poem that you select, whether Florian's or a Silverstein or whomever it is, make sure the rhyming words are at the very end of every line. Go ahead and rewrite it. It's okay. You're not going to be thrown in the pokey for rewriting the poem. If I said the poem as it's presented in the book, it might sound like this. I wear a helmet on my back. It's hard and guards me from attack. And if I wheeze or sneeze or cough, the shell I dwell in won't fall off. It's glued without a screw or mortise. I'm born with it, for I'm a tortoise. Fine. It's perfect the way I just said it. We need to say it in a meter that is a little bit more rigid. That is more rigid. And to do that, we'll need to rewrite it. So I'm going to say it now in this way. I wear a helmet on my back. It's hard and guards me from attack. And if I wheeze or sneeze or cough, shall I dwell and won't fall off. It's glued without a screw or mortise. I'm born with it, for I'm a tortoise. That's in a duple meter. I'll say it in a triple meter. Bum 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 ba, here I go. I wear a helmet on my back. It's hard and guards me from attack. And if I wheeze or sneeze or cough, the shell I dwell in won't fall off. It's glued without a screw or mortise. I'm born with it, for I'm a tortoise. Notice how it was 3 long lines. I wear a helmet on my back. It's hard and guards me from attack. One big long line, if I wanted to write it out that way. And if I wheeze or sneeze or cough, the shell I dwell in won't fall off. One big long line, even though it's 2 here. So the musical phrases that we're making from the poem are a lot longer than they're presented in the book. Now imagine the poem is X seconds long. X seconds long. Look at the graphic here. The poem is this long. Say it's 20 seconds long, for lack of a better number. The ostinatos aren't going to be 20 seconds long. They're going to be shorter than 20 seconds long, and they're going to be repeated over and over again. So the poem is this very long thing, and the ostinatos are a subset. This is where we get into algebra and fractions. Actually, it's not even, it is fractions. Okay, so algebra and fractions and all of that. So the ostinato is a portion of the longer whole. We've got that. So here is the ostinato, and if I wheeze, and if I wheeze, and if I wheeze or sneeze or cough. This ostinato has 3 of the sames, and if I 3 of the same set of words, and if I wheeze, that's one of them, and if I wheeze, that's a repeat of it, and if I wheeze, that's another one. So each one of those is called an A, and then or sneeze or cough is the B. So this is A, B. That's the pattern. And if I wheeze, and if I wheeze, and if I wheeze or sneeze or cough. Now that is going to be repeated as many times as I need to take up the same time as the poem. So this is going to take less time in seconds than the poem. So now the question is, how should the two coordinate? If one is going to be longer, if the poem itself is going to be much longer than the ostinato, how do I know when to start? Look at this. If I have the poem, I wear a helmet on my back, it's hard and guards me from attack, that is going to take up the same length of time as in if I squeeze or if I wheeze or sneeze or cough. I'm going to put both of those together for you. Listen to this. Do-da-dee, here I go. And I wear a helmet on my back, it's hard and guards me from attack. Now I used a high squeaky voice so you could hear the two parts. That's the challenging thing about doing this, is you have to differentiate the two parts. So when you're recording the poem over the ostinato, take the little, make sure that the ostinato is a little bit louder in your ears. And in Audacity, I'm using Audacity, there is a little slider that will help you to make that louder. And then once you have it as loud as you need it so that you can hear it clearly, when you finish your final project, you just put it back to the normal position so it's not too loud. You may want your ostinato to go pretty quickly, and if I wheeze, and if I wheeze, and if I wheeze or sneeze or cough. And you may want your poem to be said much more slowly. Here's an example where the length of time in seconds is illustrated by how I've spaced out the letters of each line. So here's how this one would sound. The poem will be recited much more slowly than the ostinato, and yet when I get to cough, I will only be at the word back, because when I begin the ostinato again, and if I wheeze, I will be at the next line, which is, it's hard and guards me from attack. So I'm coordinating the two by making one a lot slower. Here's how this one will sound. The ostinato and then the poem. Here I go. Do-da-dee, here I go. And if I wheeze, and if I wheeze, and if I wheeze or sneeze or cough. And if I wheeze, and if I wheeze, and if I wheeze or sneeze or cough. It's hard I wheeze, and if I wheeze, and if I wheeze or sneeze or cough. You can hear that that's a lot slower. I wear a helmet on my back. And then I waited until and if before I started the next line. Most of the time you're going to want to say the poem at the same tempo as your ostinato, because it's kind of challenging to make one slower than the other. That's why you should say the ostinato a couple times before you say the poem. And finally, here is the whole poem with the ostinato. I will say the ostinato one time through before I start. Well, actually, I'll say it 2 times through before I start, and then I'll start the whole poem. I'll say the poem on top of the ostinato. Here I go. Do-da-dee, here I go. And if I wheeze, and if I wheeze, and if I wheeze or sneeze or cough. And if I wheeze, and if I wheeze, and if I wheeze or sneeze or cough. And I wear a helmet on my back, it's hard it guards me from attack. And if I wheeze or sneeze or cough, the shell I dwell in won't fall off. It's glued without a screw or mortise. I'm born with it, for I am a tortoise. And if I wheeze, and if I wheeze, and if I wheeze or sneeze or cough. To coordinate the two takes a little bit of practice. This isn't something that you can just toss off in 5 minutes. If you're not strong musically, and I'm not asking you to be strong musically, then you'll need to work on it. Find somebody who may have more skill in music than you and ask them to make sure that you're coordinating the two things. You don't have to do everything. You have to know whom to call on if you don't know everything. We just need a little help from our friends. So a little bit of practice will be required. Just listen to yourself saying that, saying your ostinato, and then come in with the poem. I know you don't like to listen to yourselves. I don't like to listen to myself either. So that's something we just have to deal with. This is how I would suggest you approach the ostinatos and the poems. And I will leave you with my rendition of the tortoise, which will be a little more musical. Here I go. And if I wheeze, and if I wheeze, and if I wheeze or sneeze or cough, and wear a helmet on my back, it's hard and guards me from attack. And if I wheeze or sneeze or cough, the shell I dwell in won't fall off. It's glued without a screw or mortise. I'm born with it, for I am a tortoise. And if I wheeze, and if I wheeze, and if I wheeze, for I'm a tortoise.